Today, though, we're going to talk. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of John's talk last week about the building, but not really. We're going to talk about love today, and I just think love has been paramount from the beginning. Love is like at the centerpiece of who we are as a people of faith, as a community of believers. Love is the most important thing. Before we start that today, how many of you, let's say, remember dating at all? Anybody? I vaguely remember it. Some of you, it was not too long ago. Some of you, it was a long time ago. But I always find it interesting, like, from a man's perspective. I'm not even gonna try to get into the female mind. I don't know it, and so I'm just gonna steer clear of it. I'm just gonna go to the mind of a 43-year-old man who dated at one time in his life. And here's what I remember about dating. Dating was a lot of fun because once you found that person, and some of you may be sitting beside that person, and they're gonna like elbow you because this is exactly you, like this is what you did. Okay, boom, but here's the deal. Dating, I'll just say Michelle, my wife. Dating my wife, Michelle, I've known her for a long time. Before we dated, we were friends, and so I've known her a long time. But even so, the first time that we were like, hey, do you want to go do something? And it was like, yeah, let's go do that. And so we started dating, and it was fun. It was a good time. But I noticed something during a dating time is that us guys will do anything, right? You will do anything when you first start dating someone, even things that you don't like to do, right? Hey, do you want to go make a quilt? Yeah. Yes, I want to make a quilt. Are you going? Yeah, I'm going. I want to make a quilt because I've seen quilts. I've got a quilt on my bed. So, I mean, it must be awesome to make one. Yes, let's go do that. Let's go make a quilt. Hey, you want to go you want to go make a little craft? Yes, I do. It's a little wood thing. We're going to make it. It might say something cute on it. Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. It'll be awesome. We do that. As guys, for sure, we do that. We get this spot in us where something wells up inside of us that when our significant other, when our person that we're dating and that person that we want to spend all this time with, something wells up inside of you and you said, yes, I want to do that, please. I don't care what it is. I just want to spend time with you. This is the greatest thing ever. This is the best. And you get to this point where that's what you're doing over and over again for the first however long. But then somebody says, I love you. Then you say, I love you back, or you say it and they say it back to you. And it is like the diminishing returns because the minute you say, I love you to someone, there's this sense of relaxation that comes over your body that just says, I've arrived. She loves me. So like pretty much anything I do now, she says she loves me, so this is it. I got it. And this relaxation comes over you, and you stop wanting to do all the things that you did before. Like, hey, you want to go make a quilt? No. Golf is on, and it's the Masters week, and I really want to watch it. The Derby was yesterday. I really don't want to do anything. I just want to sit and watch horse races. Like, and you start. It slowly starts to just kind of get ho hum because you've relaxed. You're here. You've arrived. You don't got any more work to do. You can let yourself go. You can gain the 20 pounds that you lost while you were dating because you wanted to look good, and that's like, nah, whatever. This is what you get. This is it. Don't ask for anything more. This is it. And that's the way we go, right? And from a guy's perspective, I don't know from a girl's, I should have had Michelle come up here and talk and be like, this is what I was thinking at the time when he was thinking this. But then it would have been just a bash Dave Parkerson. And I don't really want to do that. But that little part, that little we've arrived part, of love is kind of what I want to talk about today. There's this little snippet where this is going to kind of tie into us building a building, but more importantly, it's going to tie into who we are as a community. And it happens to us at times with this idea of love. Love, in our minds, takes our guard down. That's what I want to say. It takes our guard down, right? And because it takes our guard down, we're less likely to do some things. And so we're going to look, and we're going to spend pretty much the whole time in 1 Corinthians 13. And we're going to be 1 through 13, somewhere right around there. So if you got your Bible, you can take it out. If you got a Bible app, you can pop that thing on there. If not, it'll be on the screens here as well, and you can follow along. Because we're gonna kind of be exposed to some very basic but very important areas of truth with this theme of love. And how do we love? I don't think we'd get an argument on the fact that the greatest commodity is love. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to love and be loved. It is just a fact of life. In 1 Corinthians 13:13, it says, the greatest of these is love. In 1 Peter 4, it says, above all things have love. And when it wants to, check this out, when the Bible wants to define God, or God wants to define himself, what does he say? What is God? What? Be confident in it. Oh, yeah, God is love, all right? Not the love that we're talking about earlier where it's kind of like, whatever, we've arrived, we're good. But he describes himself as love. God is the personification. Love is this personification of the character of God. So love is this grandiose thing, and God says, this is who I am. I am love, and so this is what it should look like. This is what the character of God should look like. In Romans 13, it says, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. Here's the deal. Love is the high point. It is the pinnacle. Love is this number one ingredient in life in terms of attuning your life to the character of God. Love is the pinnacle. And the sad thing for us is a lot of churches lack love, right? A lot of churches, some of you may have come from a church that lacks love. And the truth is, it's missing too frequently in God's own people, and it's missing too frequently. And in one of the greatest illustrations, this chapter 13 in 1 Corinthians is this great illustration of a church that was missing it. This church that was missing it. And a lot of times you see 1 Corinthians 13, and where do you hear 1 Corinthians 13 most of the time? Weddings, right? I don't want to burst your bubble, but if any of you are getting married, you can still use it, but that's not what it was intended for. All right? It was intended to kind of slap the the Corinthian church around a little bit, because they were doing some stuff, and they were being a certain way that Paul had to kind of come in and go, listen, you're missing it. You're missing it. And so you're missing all this. And see, here's the deal. Let me explain the Corinthian church to you. Just the town of Corinth, it had a lot going for it. It was full of people who could do all these miraculous things, could prophesy. They had teachers like Paul and Apollos and all these other things. They had facilities that were like strategic for being this city that was in a prime location where lots of people are coming in, and they had this awesome opportunity to be witnessing to people, to be transforming people's lives for Jesus. They had this opportunity, but they were missing an ingredient. They were this strategic city that lost its focus. And with all that was going on with the Corinthians, Paul adds them up to 0 in chapter 13. He says, you're 0. He said, love is missing. And anything minus love is nothing. Anything minus love is nothing. And so the Apostle Paul points out here that it is absolutely necessary. It's a necessity, and there should be this urgency about love. And it was tragically absent in this community of believers. And you have to think that as important as love is, it's strange that it's hard for us to be a loving community, to truly experience love. Now, the word here for love that's used here is agape. It's the most grandiose. It's the strongest word that we would assume because it's used here when Paul is talking about how important love is, right? And it's this loftiest. It's the loftiest of expectations. It's this full definition of the word love, and that's what's used here. This agape. And there have been many, many definitions. There really has. There's definitions of love. There's people who've written books about love. If you look it up, there's a bajillion. Almost in every century, there's a book written about love. There are songs written about love. All you need is love. That's the first one that came to my mind as I was talking. There's lots of other ones. But when it's all said and done, when you've read everything you have to read about love, when you've sung all the songs about love, when you've done everything, you've read everything, all that stuff, you need to read 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Because here's the deal. You've not heard anything, you've not heard the best definition until you've read through this. And trust me, I've done weddings where I've done this one and I've read through it and I hum through it. Sometimes it's like, yeah, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not smile. Now make sure you love your wife good, and all that stuff. Like, you can just kind of skim through that. But in preparing this week for it, man, it really started to smack me across the face of like, how much do I do the things I do, and love is not a part of them? And so the cool thing about God is there's no real definition of love, okay? Not in Scripture. There's no real definition of it. It's just not. There's a description of it. And that's what he has here in 13, 4 through 7. It's this beautiful description of love. And if you want to see there, love is not this feeling. Love is not this attribute. It's an action. And so love in this little part where Paul is talking about is all about action. Love is all about action. And if you don't know the Greek, which some of you probably do, some of you may not, the words written in this 1 Corinthians in our language look like adjectives. They look like they're words that are describing love. This love is, love is kind, love is patient, but actually the Greek form, they're all verbs. There's no adjectives in there. And so he's saying, like, listen, these things that I'm about to tell you about love, these things that I'm about to blow your mind with in terms of love, these aren't just passive words. These are words that have meat to them. These are words that require you to move. These are words that require some sort of action on your part in order to fulfill what I'm asking you to fulfill. And so in every one of these 15 aspects of love, Paul is saying, like, this is the embodiment of who God is. This is the embodiment of what I need you to be to the people around you. This is what I need you to be to those who come into your presence. I need you to be these 15 things, and I need you that to be personified in what you do and how you live and all that stuff. And so Paul is here and he's saying, listen, Corinthians, you have missed the boat. You have missed the boat desperately. And in the flurry of your activities, in the flurry of the things that you've had going on, you've missed it. You're doing all this stuff, but you miss the main ingredient. And so Paul points out three things in here, a few things in here that we're going to talk through, okay? The first one is this. It's the importance of love. If you look in 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3, it says, if I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all the mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all the faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all that I have and I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. So now Paul wants the Corinthian church to understand the necessity of love. Love is something without which you're zero. Love is something without it you're a clanging gong or a cymbal that just makes loud noises. Like he's saying, listen, if this is the most important thing, if love is the most important thing, and you're missing the boat because you don't have it, the things that you're doing, Corinthians, like the things that you are pursuing, you might as well not even pursue. It doesn't matter that you have the gift of prophecy or you have all this knowledge and all this wisdom. It doesn't matter that you give yourself as a martyr. It doesn't matter if you sell everything you have and give it to the poor. If you don't have love, you're nothing. That's the importance of love. It plays the most important part in Christian behavior. And if you don't have it, and if it's absent, the behavior ceases to be Christian. Just does. I've been in ministry 22 years now, something like that, 21, 22 years now, in different capacities. And as a minister, I'm called to love people. Like, that's part of the job. You love and you support and you counsel and you do all this stuff. One of my roles is also to help facilitate outreach to people who need outreach and missions and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, as I started looking through this and I started working on this sermon, I started to review in my head all the things I've done in ministry and all the things I've done as under my umbrella as a Christian. And I can look back and I can say, like, some of the things that I did just because I had to do. Some of the events I put on because I thought they would be cool. I started in youth ministry, and I did a lot of things because I thought, man, that would get kids here, that would be cool, that would be fun. I don't know if I had them with love in mind. Like, I don't know that I did it because I loved the things around me. And the more I thought, the more I think about that, the more I think, man, how many times in my ministry and in my life as a Christian have I just been a noisy gong? Because I didn't have love in my heart for what I was doing. Maybe it was successful on an earthly standpoint, but from a spiritual standpoint, I was bankrupt, or I was just not doing it because I loved it, or I'm not doing it because I love Jesus. And because of that, like, I look over the history of the things I've done, and I'm like, woo, man, I need to do some self-evaluation. I need to figure out, like, is this really out of love that I'm doing these things? And part of what we have to do in this relationship with Jesus, and even with the relationship around us, is understand how important love is. You can do all kinds of things. You can be great at all kinds of things. You can. But man, if you don't have love, it just doesn't matter. That may matter to the people around you. But last time I checked, for those of us who've given our lives to Jesus and we've professed the Lord as the Lord of our lives, that's who we got to please. That's who we have to spend our lives trying to love better. And if the things that we do don't have love at the core of them, then we're missing. Now, he moves on from this big overarching thing, talking to the church in Corinth. He's saying, all right, the most important thing is love, and you're missing it. Okay, and now they're missing it. Well, here's the deal. So if it's so important, if love is so important, if love is the main ingredient of what's going on, and we can't do anything without it, if we're zero without love, if we don't have love at the center of what we do, if we're bankrupt without it, then how do we minister in a way that shows love? What is love? How do we show love to the people around us? Can you tell us what this love is? Can you tell me what love is? I feel like that's a song too. I don't know, but I feel like that was a song. I don't know what love is. Right? Yeah, that's what I want you to show. Y'all know, like, y'all know me. Sorry, I digress. And Paul says, here's the deal. Here is love. Starts in verse 4. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoings, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Now that is a description of love. The ultimate description of love. You don't see anything abstract there. You don't see anything really in terms of ideology. You only see it in terms of behavior. What you have here really, it's like this, there's like 15 different parts. 15 in here. There's probably way more than that, but for Paul's Corinthians, there's 15. And he says, listen, you have these parts. You have patience. Your love is patient, kind, all this stuff, and it's coming together, and it makes this beautiful description of who God is and what God calls us to be. And it gives you the spectrum of what love needs to look like. And here's what it needs to look like. It needs to be what? Moving. There is action in every aspect of this love. It has to be moving. Your love cannot be stagnant. It cannot be stale, because then it ceases to be love. Just like in your dating relationships. You think you've arrived once you tell them you love them, and you let down your guard. Well, God's saying, and Paul is saying, listen, don't let down your guard, because love still moves. Love is a movement. Love requires us to push ourselves in a direction. Love does not want us to stand still and be stagnant and rest on who we are. That's not what love is. That's the opposite of love. We talked a few weeks ago in our Tweak series. I talked about parenting, and I decided, 6-8 months ago, that I was going to start saying yes to more things my kids asked me to do. Mostly because I love my kids. But in a lot of ways, I was doing a poor job of really showing them that I loved them. Because they would be like, Dad, you want to do this? And I'd be like, nope. Any other dads there? Please tell me I'm not the only one. Raise your hands, please. Let me see that we're kindred spirits. Okay, yes. Because sometimes you get home from work and you're like, Dad, do you want to do this? You're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play Xbox. I don't want to do this. But I made a conscious decision that I was going to say yes. Because I've come to realize that my kids know that I love them. They know that I would do anything for them if push came to shove. But I really needed to show it, because love is an action. And so I play basketball with them more. We ride around, or I don't have a bike, so I don't ride around. They ride around, and we do lots of things together because I think it's important. It's important for me to be patient with my kids, to show my kids kindness, to show my kids that I love them in so many different ways, because they need that. How are they going to know what love looks like if I don't show them what love looks like, and if Michelle doesn't show them what love looks like? And I do the same thing with my wife. I was lazy for years as a husband. Still probably kind of lazy. I'm less lazy. Because I realized, like, okay, if I love my wife, it's not enough for me to say that I love you. She'll say it back, and, sometimes we just say it because it's out of habit, right? You say, I love you, and they, I love you too. But the truth is, in order for me to show Michelle that I love her, I got to do things, right? And so we moved here to Mount Washington. I have more time than she has. She got a new job. She works in downtown Louisville. She spends a lot of time in a car driving back and forth. And so one of the things that I decided to do as a husband, not because I want to impress her or anything, because, there's not impressive. Nothing's impressive. But because I love her dearly, I started doing things. I don't know if she noticed them at first, but I would throw a load of laundry in. And this sounds, when I say these things, they sound sexist, because it's like, I cooked dinner. But I know for women, there's an expectation on yourself when you come home. You still got to deal with your kids. You still got to deal with dinner. You got to do with these. And I don't know if every home's that way, but our home is that way for the longest time. Not that I expected her to make dinner, but I never volunteered to make dinner, or I never volunteered to clean up, or I never volunteered to put a load of laundry in, or anything like that. But the truth is, like, as I started to do those things, because I wanted Michelle to have time with the boys that was not work time. I wanted Michelle to experience joys of coming home and not having to worry about whether or not we were having something for dinner. Sometimes she still does that, and sometimes I cook dinner. It's kind of 50-50 at this point. Her meals are always better than my meals, because I make like bacon and eggs and spaghetti and junk like that. But I do it not because I enjoy doing it, because I really hate cooking, but I do it because I love my wife, and I want her to come home and be able to be relaxed and to just enjoy the time that she has with the boys, and to enjoy the time at the house and not feel like everything she does is work. And that's what love looks like. Love is action. I'm not perfect at it, but love is action. And Paul is telling the Corinthian church here, like, this is how you love. You want to do all that stuff. You want to prophesy, and you want to do all these miraculous things, and you want to be really smart, and you want to teach in some ways that lets people know how smart you are. Man, you can do all that. But if you do it without love in your heart and without this actionable move of love, then it's a waste of time. And it's a waste of time. And so we have this building that we're getting ready to build. And we can arrive at it. We can go, man, we can build this building. People are going to come in, and it's in a good location. People are going to come. I know people are going to come. And this is kind of our way of telling Mount Washington, hey, listen, we love you, Mount Washington. We love you. We love you so much that we're willing to put money where our mouth is, and build a building and be a permanent structure, permanent part of what that is. We've arrived, and in arriving, sometimes that makes it easy for us to just sit back. But what do we say here? We believe everybody's worth it. We believe when people walk through these doors, or when people walk down the streets in Mount Washington, people are worth it to Jesus. And so instead of resting on this fact that maybe we're going to have this really nice building and people are going to come to us, like, that's fine and good. But we still want to be a church that loves in action. And we want to be a part of the community. We want to be a part of what's going on at the heart of Mount Washington. We want to be in schools. We want to be part of community festivals. We want to do our part to help the less fortunate. We want to do all of these things as a community, because love is an action, and we want to be about moving in our community, throughout our community, to show people that we love them, not just by building a building, but by being in their lives. That's love. That's love. He goes on in 8 through 13, and he says, love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. And when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. Listen, whatever we accomplish as individuals, whatever we accomplish as a church, if we don't have love at the center, whatever we do will pass away. But Paul tells the Corinthian church, listen, you can do all of that stuff. You can do it all. But that stuff doesn't last. Buildings don't last. This junk doesn't last. The only thing that lasts is the love that you show to the people around you and the love that you show to Jesus. Those are the only things that last. And Paul wants them to he wants the church in Corinth to know, like, change. Be different. Be different because I'm different. Be loving because I'm loving. That's our greatest challenge. That is the greatest challenge that we have as individuals, as small groups, as a community as a whole, is to keep this idea that love is an action and Mount Washington is the place where we are called to move. So let's move. Let's pray.